Welcome, everyone, to the Flower Files podcast sponsored by Wildly Native Flower Farm. Here, everyone is welcome to talk with fellow flower lovers, including real perspectives from the farm, the flowers, and me, the florist.
From the messy day-to-day operations down to the details and even business perspectives, this podcast has a little bit of everything to keep it real. We know that life can get crazy and we don't always have the time to spend on what we love, so we are here to help you take a little time to indulge in nature. I'm Liza Getz.
I'm Lizzie Frey, and we are the team that makes this podcast. Every once in a while, we have a couple guests, this business thing, and what we are working with is called life.
Join us as we walk you through how to think outside the box, talk from the farmer's perspective, have honest conversations about florals, and how to run, well, life. So listen in.
You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, in the podcast section, and any of your other podcast platforms. You can also find us online at wildlynativeflowerfarm.com, and in an easy way, you can look in the show notes, and all of the information will be right there for easy access.
Hi friends, welcome back to the Flower Files. We're doing this episode a little different. I'll be honest, I'm struggling a little and I'm really nervous. So this is our first video. I am the guinea pig and this is our guinea pig episode. I'll be honest with you guys, this is the first time I've tried to use a teleprompter to, have my notes, but there's so many times where I want to be able to say something that maybe isn't on my notes. So I am going to just be natural and normal, and you may see me once in a while look down for my notes because, my notes are here on my phone because where else would they be? So here we are. This is real, and this is an episode that I have really thought about, and it seemed to fit well in this spot, so I figured we would tackle it here. So we're going to be talking about starting late, starting small, or starting over, and it's all okay no matter where you are in life. So hi friends, Liza here. Welcome to the Flower Files. I hope you've been here before. The Flower Files is our podcast that is hosted by Wildly Native Flower Farm. I'm Liza. I think I've said that like 3 times now, so hopefully you know my name. But I really wrote this episode for anyone who's ever thought that they're behind, that maybe they're late or they should have started sooner, or maybe they've messed it up again. And if that's you, I want you to take a great big deep breath, which I clearly need right this minute. Because today I want you to understand more than anything else, if you don't get anything else from this episode, it's you're never too late. You're never too small, and you're never behind. You're exactly where you need to be. Okay, so let's dive in a little bit and talk a little bit more about what I actually mean. So starting late. Let's talk about what that actually means. Maybe you're talking about it's late in the season, or it's late in life, or it's late compared to what the calendar says it should be, or what the season says, or where you are in life. Maybe you're looking at your neighbor's perfectly manicured garden and you're going, oh my gosh, I'm so late. It's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. Life isn't perfect. So the garden teaches us every single year, nature doesn't shame timing. Seeds don't look at the calendar and say, oh my God, I should have been in the ground. I guess I missed my chance. I'm not going to grow now. Some of the best decisions we've made on the farm have come from a late planting. One of my favorite crops now actually is lisianthus. The first year I grew it, I didn't know anything about it really. It was pretty, it looked really neat in pictures. I didn't know a lick about the durability, how much we would use it, and how revered it would be. And I'll be honest, I grew it in the greenhouse. It took 12 weeks to germinate, and it sat. and it sat and it sat and it sat because it was so tiny and it was just so like meh. I had run out of space in the field, so I put it in a small section of the hoop house and just let it do its thing. I'll be honest, I didn't do the due diligence that I would do now when it came to trying a new crop. Then I was still working full-time as a teacher. I was doing this part-time. I was so crunched for time. Kids needed things and life and everything was happening. And I was so late in getting them in the ground. I got them in the ground. They grew. And I have to say, I took them out of the greenhouse at the wrong time. They sat out on my front walkway. They were neglected so badly. They were just in their trays, and I was like, okay, I'll get to them. I'll get them in the ground. Yeah, I got them in the ground. They were really late, and it was so dry, and they would like the cells that they were growing would shrink down. I'd water them, and they'd come back up. I was like, oh my God, planted them. Now today, it is one of our favorite crops. I didn't realize how amazing that plant would be. Had no clue. So probably one of the best mistakes, or one of the things that I started from behind, that we have ever grown here on the farm. Nature didn't care about my timing. The plants still got planted and they still bloomed. Probably one of the best mistakes we've ever made. So that was a late planting, and quite honestly, those seeds were a last minute decision. I was like, I'll try these because we have this greenhouse, and they sat next to the eucalyptus. Both have done really, really well. So it didn't mean that I failed. It meant that I had started when I was ready. And I guess that's when I was ready. And they went in the ground and they're great. Starting small. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the story on the farm. So if you hear this again, I apologize for the repeat. But I think sometimes people get stuck with starting small. And they feel like they shouldn't start if they're not starting bigger. Because we live in a world right now that glorifies big gardens and big harvests and big launches and big everything. Everything is grand and extra and huge. But gardens are built on small foundations. So when I first started my first year, I started small. I started really, really small. It felt like it was big. But I started small. I figured out what worked. I figured out what didn't work. I figured out what I liked. I figured out what I had time for. I figured out what would grow well. I started small so that I would have the space for mistakes, the time to learn, and it gave me more flexibility. Instead of having 1,000 of something, having 50, 10, 100 is a little bit different and less pressure. My very first year, I planted 1,000 seeds. I was so proud of myself. I thought that was amazing. And I distinctly remember standing out in that field that first year, looking at everything and going, I don't even have enough to get started. I need 1,000 of each seed. And now we're a little closer to that. Actually, we're a lot closer to that when you look at all the different varieties. But I've also been doing this for years. So that first year was that first step. But before I had planted those 1,000 seeds, I also had grown all of those varieties in smaller batches, just to figure out what I liked, what I didn't like, what would work and what wouldn't work. So your garden starts out small. It starts with one seed, one garden bed, maybe one pot or one bucket, sometimes one shovel, one pair of hands, one thought, one dream. It's okay to have a tiny dream that then gets maybe a little bit bigger. Or if you're standing in your garden or you're standing in your dream and you're looking at everything and you're going, this isn't big enough. Or this is too big. I need to make it smaller. It's okay to make it right for you. That's what's important. Some of the most successful flower gardeners I know started with a small plot in a backyard, a couple milk crates, or a couple pots on a back patio. And that is perfectly fine. That is A-okay. But just but just start, and then you can scale. Start to scale. That's how you figure it out. Because starting small isn't playing small, it's learning smart. So don't let anybody tell you that you shouldn't do it like that. Okay, this is one of my favorites, starting over. Let me tell you, probably October, if I had to guess. That's usually when we as a team are tired, we're hot, we're bug eaten, we're exhausted, close to burnout because it's heavy wedding season. You have to plan everything. You have to keep things going, plan for the following year, still do the weddings, have everything going. By October, we all kind of look at each other. Oh, and don't forget the weeds. By then, anything that has been small and on the back burner, you're looking at and going, well, we're just going to deal with that next year. Because if the weeds are over your head at that point in a certain section, and it does happen, let's be realistic. We're talking acres of flowers, sections of perennials. I want to be realistic. That's why I'm sitting here in a hoodie and a sweatshirt, guys. Jeans, and in comfy clothes, because that's the reality. But there's definitely that time in October where many of us will look at each other and go, when do you think frost is coming? Because it's okay to start over. It is okay. Now, I will say, you don't want to start over with your perennials. There are certain perennials you want to put them in and pray that they are in the right place, like mint. Very difficult to move. Mint, lemon balm, peonies don't like being moved. There's baptisia is another one that is super difficult to get out once you put it in. There are certain things, but they do let you start over because you cut them back each year. And if you have to divide and conquer, you still can. It's okay. So starting over is okay because maybe you had a crop that failed. Maybe your season didn't go as planned this past year. Our tractor, we blew a head gasket. For those of you who don't speak tractor, that's a big deal. That's like the tractor comes apart and the tractor gets put back together, and it's really a lot. So we started our entire growing season a month late. So previously when I said it's okay to start late, trust me, it's okay to start late. It's stressful, but it's okay to start late. Maybe things in your life just happened. Maybe there are things that just happened in your life and you started late, and that's okay. But maybe you also needed to just start over, and that's okay too. So maybe you also had a moment where you just had to quit. Maybe you said, you know what, I can't do anymore right now, and this has to sit. This dream has to wait. This thing has to be done later. And that's okay too. That is perfectly fine as well, because you get to come back. And here's what I need you to learn, know, and understand, and really listen and put it in your heart. Because the garden starts over every year. There's every winter, there's every frost, there's every pruning, there's every cutback. There's moments throughout the garden and throughout your life where starting over isn't a weakness. It's actually part of the rhythm. Unless you live in the rainforest, but that's a different story. And honestly, some of the best seasons that we have, those come after some of the hardest resets that we've had. Those moments when we pause, those moments where we've made a mistake, those moments where we're trying to understand what happened. It's okay. I also want to talk to you about the feeling of being behind. So you're not behind. Gardening isn't a race. You're exactly where you need to be, and you're exactly where you're supposed to be right at this moment. Okay? Relationships are like gardens. Gardens are like relationships. You need patience, you need curiosity, and you need a little grace. So the moment you stop comparing your garden to that victory garden neighbor maybe that you have next door, or a previous season, that's when you actually pause and start to enjoy life. You start to enjoy your garden, and you start to remember why you started this thing that you thought you would love. So if you're listening to this episode and you're thinking, I want to grow flowers, but I don't know where to begin, start where you are. Start with what you have and start with the season that you're in. That's it. It's that simple. That's gardening, and that's life, and that's business, and that's growth. That's everything. So whether you're starting late, whether you're starting small, or whether you're starting over, they are all okay. You belong here. And please know that I will be here cheering you on through whatever process and whatever place you're in. If you like this episode, please share it with a friend. If you like this episode and know that this needs to go to a friend who needs to hear this, tag them and send it to them. Maybe put a little heart behind it. Because I know I wrote this episode not just for me, but for some of my friends as well. Thank you for joining us for our very first video episode. I'm sure I should have done something with my hair, but this is me and this is reality. And that's the whole point of the Flower Files, is to be real. So until next time, have a great day, have a great night, and keep growing, whatever space you're in.